At the start of the film, Cynthia sits in a quiet classroom, flipping through an old book. Inside, she finds Larry's name written. As she turns the pages, a desperate message for help catches her eye. The moment she reads it, Larry's voice echoes around her, pleading. She follows the sound to an office where a shadowy entity stands guard over a cage with Larry trapped inside. Cynthia tells him he's free to leave, that only his own fear holds him back. The entity snarls a warning, but she ignores it, insisting it has no real power over him. When Larry reaches for the cage door, the entity lashes out. Glass shatters, a sharp shard slicing Cynthia's skin. The creature crawls toward her, but she stays calm and assures Larry that they'll try next time. The entity roars until Cynthia whispers something under her breath. In an instant, the vision dissolves. She's back in the real world, Larry safe beside her. He notices the cut on her arm and apologizes, but she brushes it off. Their session is over for now, though he's welcome to stay. Later, Cynthia asks her daughter Jordan to research Larry's old gym teachers. Larry wonders if Jordan has ever tried what her mother does, but Jordan admits she's still training. Her parents both had the ability, and that's how they found each other. Later, a knock interrupts them. A girl named Riley stands at the door, trembling. She begs to speak to Cynthia, and that a woman named Agatha sent her. With strange marks on her arms, she claims that something dark follows her, something not human, always watching, always hungry. When Jordan asks if it's here now, Riley nods. Just then, Cynthia comes out and freezes. The entity is right behind Riley. Before Cynthia can act, Riley's father storms in and drags her away. Later, Jordan demands answers about why she didn't help Riley. Cynthia's face darkens. Some things are too dangerous. Her husband tried to help someone like that once. It's why he's gone. That night, Cynthia opens up to Jordan about the encounter and how it shook her. It reminded her too much of the past, of the woman her husband couldn't save, and the thing that took him. Jordan argues that his concern for others was what shaped his character. Cynthia insists that the presence attached to the girl differs from anything they've faced before. Jordan believes this makes intervention more necessary, but Cynthia counters that it's a reason to stay uninvolved. She warns that informing Riley's father about the supernatural attachment would turn him against them, just as the people of Elmsborough had. She reminds Jordan of how dire things became back then, adding that after their move, she vowed never to repeat the past. The world, she states, values science over spirits, and she hopes Jordan will one day discern when to act and when to prioritize their safety. The following morning, Jordan informs Cynthia that she's meeting friends. After her departure, Cynthia opens her notebook, revealing a sketch of the entity she saw with Riley. Meanwhile, Jordan meets Agatha and inquires about Riley Harris. Agatha claims not to recognize the name, but Jordan mentions Riley overheard Agatha speaking to her father, implying Cynthia could assist. Agatha recalls Randall Harris from Kenilworth, a widower from the previous year. Expressing concern, Jordan urges any details that might help Riley, prompting Agatha to mention the scars she noticed. Randall had called them self-inflicted, leading her to give him Cynthia's card without explanation. Elsewhere, Cynthia asks John to monitor a suspect named Doe Ferry. John notes her habit of acting on unexplained hunches, but Cynthia offers no justification, only requesting a background check. When he finds the record, she simply states the man is dangerous and urges surveillance. Later, Cynthia searches through her books for information on the entity, but the memory of it unnerves her. Gazing at her husband's photo, she admits she's never encountered something so powerful and can't help Riley. On the other hand, Jordan meets Randall, who dismisses the need for professional help, insisting he has control over the situation. Jordan argues Riley requires someone who understands her experiences, prompting Randall to demand specifics. When Jordan implies she grasps Riley's struggles, Randall angrily tells her she doesn't know anything about their family's past and tells her to leave. Jordan requests to speak to Riley directly, but Randall claims she isn't present before retreating to his workshop. Suspicious, Jordan searches the property and spots Riley in the basement. She sneaks inside, mistaking a closet for the basement entrance. Hearing a noise, she discovers a hidden door behind the clothes. After retrieving a screwdriver to force it open, she calls out to Riley, stating her intent to talk. A voice responds from behind another door, and Riley explains her father doesn't lock her away. He locks them away. Jordan asks who she means, but Cynthia's call interrupts. Randall suddenly attacks, knocking Jordan down and disconnecting the call. Simultaneously, Agatha calls Cynthia, checking if Jordan spoke with Randall. Confused, Cynthia asks who Randall is, and Agatha explains Jordan had visited earlier, asking about his daughter. Confused, Cynthia presses for details. Whose daughter is Agatha referring to, and what exactly did Jordan say? Agatha explains that Jordan mentioned a girl had come to their house the night before, and that she simply wanted to speak with her. Meanwhile, Jordan regains consciousness to find herself bound to a chair. To her shock, another woman is restrained beside her. She calls out for help, but Randall enters and demands her phone password. Jordan pleads that she only wants to help Riley, but Randall insists no one can. Past efforts, he says, always led to child services trying to take his daughter away. Jordan argues that her mother could help, but Randall dismisses the idea, claiming no one could save Riley, just as no one could save his wife. Jordan promises they can uncover what the entity wants and force it to leave them alone, but Randall coldly states they already know its demands. Riley must feed it, or it will feed on her. Riley steps forward and whispers an apology before placing her hand on Jordan's shoulder. Instantly, the entity materializes behind Jordan, seizing her and flooding her with agony. The moment Riley withdraws her touch, the entity vanishes. Randall praises Riley and sends her upstairs. As Cynthia and Agatha drive toward Randall's house, Cynthia grows uneasy, convinced Jordan is in danger. Agatha reassures her with a text from Jordan claiming she's with friends, but Cynthia finds this out of character. They had plans. Back at the house, Randall hurries Riley, instructing her to load Jordan into the truck. Riley hesitates, asking if Cynthia could help, but Randall insists Jordan's disappearance will draw attention, risking Riley being taken away. Riley grabs pliers, claiming she needs her backpack, then returns to the basement. She questions Jordan if Cynthia really saw the entity. Jordan confirms it and begs for release, promising to take Riley to her. Riley worries about her father getting in trouble, but admits he's only trying to protect her. If Cynthia can cure her, maybe he'll become himself again. She hands Jordan the pliers, vowing to distract Randall outside. Randall soon realizes the pliers are missing. Jordan struggles to cut the zip ties, the tool slipping from her grasp. Frantic, she forces her wrists until the tie snaps. Freeing the woman, she bolts for help, only for Randall to block her path with a rifle. Jordan pleads that Riley needs real help. Suddenly, Riley rushes in, begging her father to stop. She refuses to be part of this anymore. Randall orders her aside, but the woman tackles him. In the struggle, a gunshot rings out, and Riley collapses. All of a sudden, Jordan's vision spins, and she sees the entity. The terrifying monster grips her face, flooding her with nightmarish visions. Moments later, she jolts back to awareness and flees. Cynthia and Agatha find Jordan stumbling along the road near Randall's house as Randall speeds away in his truck. Later, John informs Cynthia that Riley's body was taken to Common Grove Hospital, where the staff are distraught. Forensics uncovered more remains, proving the Slayer's long activity, and that Jordan is lucky to be alive. Agatha asks if Randall was caught, but John says not yet, though it's only a matter of time. He adds that Cynthia's suspicion about Doe Ferry was correct. He's been detained for questioning after unsettling behavior on camera. Elsewhere, Jordan is questioned about the marks on her arms. She claims they're from Randall's attack, the result of her desperate struggle. When questioned if the injuries occurred after Randall fired the rifle, Jordan confirms and describes punching him to escape. An officer interjects that forensic teams uncovered remains beneath the woodshed and stresses Jordan's important role in tracking Randall. Suddenly, Jordan glimpses the entity again and screams, but it disappears as abruptly as it came. Shaken, she insists she needs to go home. There, Jordan tells Cynthia she's seeing the entity, but Cynthia dismisses it as trauma from Riley's demise. Jordan protests that she felt it leave Riley's body and now senses it clinging to her. Cynthia argues she'd detect such a presence, but Jordan pleads for her to look deeper. When Jordan accuses her of fearing the same visions that tormented her father, Cynthia falls silent. Frustrated, Jordan calls her a coward and storms out. Agatha intervenes, reminding Cynthia that facing fear is the only way past it. She points out Cynthia's habit of helping others while avoiding her own wounds, and urges her not to fail Jordan now. Relenting, Cynthia warns Jordan that any attached entity will exploit her deepest vulnerabilities. She presses a hand to Jordan's forehead and closes her eyes. Inside Jordan's mind, Cynthia finds a newspaper headline related to her husband. It says how a therapist pushed a patient to end themselves and blamed a demon for it. She recites a quiet incantation, and the scene shifts to their old house. Young Jordan lingers outside as Cynthia coaxes her indoors. Cynthia reassures her, but upon entering, she senses the entity. It attacks, searing her arm with phantom burns until Agatha slaps her awake. Later, Cynthia asks Agatha to stay with Jordan while she goes out to investigate. At the hospital, Larry recalls Samantha Harris's bizarre case, a rapid deterioration resembling flesh-eating disease. After finding out the lead doctor, Cynthia visits him. Dr. Whitaker, now retired, describes Samantha's horrifying decline, hair, teeth, and nails falling out as her body rotted. In her final days, Samantha whispered of an invisible hunger gripping her. When Whitaker took her hand, he felt an unnatural pull, as though his very essence was being drained. She wanted him to realize that no medicine could heal what was wrong. This was her way of expressing gratitude for his efforts. Whitaker reveals the scars on his arm to Cynthia, admitting that after that night, he couldn't bring himself to return. Samantha's daughter had stayed by her side in her last moments, holding her hand until the end. Cynthia asks if he truly believed something supernatural was with Samantha. Whitaker hesitates, saying that if her client is experiencing the same thing, she's better off seeking help from someone like Cynthia than him. Meanwhile, Jordan drifts into a nightmare, where she walks toward an attic, drawn forward until the entity's voice tells her to feed it. She refuses, and the creature lunges at her, only for her to wake with a gasp. But as she catches her breath, her bedroom door creaks open. Nearby, Agatha stirs at the sound of movement, thinking Cynthia has returned. When she sees no one, she relaxes and picks up her book again. Jordan, now searching for her mother, hears a whisper and turns, but the hallway is empty, the entity lurking just behind her. She heads downstairs to the kitchen, where she discovers Cynthia's sketch of the creature. A sudden noise makes her spin. The entity slithers from behind the fridge, but before it can strike, Randall grabs her. Cynthia arrives home to find Agatha unconscious on the floor. Rousing her, she demands, "What happened?" Agatha murmurs weakly that someone was there. Cynthia races to Jordan's room. It turns out empty. She bolts outside, screaming for help, and an officer calls for backup. Meanwhile, Jordan is dragged to the woods in a box. She fights against the wooden box, shoving at the lid until Randall presses a shovel to her throat to silence her. She pleads for mercy, but he ignores her, saying that now that she is possessed by the entity, he needs to end her to end it. Ignoring her screams, he seals the box, drags it to a pit, and buries her. Later, Randall turns himself in. Cynthia confronts him, demanding to know where Jordan is, but Randall stays silent. She begs John to let her interrogate him, but he refuses, citing protocol. Meanwhile, trapped in the darkness, Jordan finds a torch and searches for an escape until the entity's voice slithers through the air. She screams as it crawls over her. On the other hand, John returns to Cynthia, telling her she won't have much time with Randall as she goes in to talk. Cynthia places her fingers on Randall's forehead, chanting under her breath, and suddenly, she's inside his memories. She sees Riley weeping over her mother's corpse, Randall watching from the doorway. Then, the vision shifts. She's in the woods, watching as Randall buries Jordan alive. Randall turns to Cynthia and demands she leave, forcing her out of his mind and back to reality. He tells her she cannot find Jordan and that she must perish. Meanwhile, the entity looms over Jordan, creeping closer before gripping her face and feeding on her. Cynthia drives toward the woods, ignoring Agatha's suggestion to call the police. She insists they won't help. When they arrive, they dig frantically, unaware that the police are following fresh tire tracks. Cynthia finds Jordan and recoils as the entity flickers into view before vanishing. She shakes Jordan awake, confirming she's alive, but weak. Hearing sirens, Agatha tries to signal the police, but Cynthia stops her, insisting Jordan has no time left. She sends Agatha to distract them, knowing they can't afford separation. Once alone, Cynthia enters Jordan's mind, finding her outside the house and urging her to stay there. She then ventures into the attic, discovering her husband's corpse hanging from a noose. Jordan follows inside, while Cynthia confronts the entity, offering herself in Jordan's place. The creature advances, lunging at her, but Cynthia presses her fingers to its forehead and begins reciting something before the scene cuts away. Suddenly, Cynthia finds herself trapped in the entity's mind. She stumbles through the nightmare until she finds a spear. Gripping it, she moves forward until she reaches the entity's throne. It rises, stepping toward her and asking her to feed it. Meanwhile, Jordan also enters the attic and sees her father's corpse. Outside, John finds Cynthia's unconscious body and tries to wake her. Distracted by his voice from outside, she realizes the entity has vanished. Just then, vines erupt from behind the throne, wrapping around her limbs as the creature reappears. Back in the attic, Jordan pulls Cynthia's hand from the entity's forehead, but nothing happens. Inside the dream within the dream, the entity crawls toward Cynthia. All of a sudden, Jordan pulls out a badass entry and drives the spear into the famished monster's head. Together, they attack and finally end it. Cynthia holds Jordan close, assuring her it's over. 6 months later, Cynthia revisits Jordan's mind, guiding her into the house. Jordan climbs to the attic, removes the noose from her father's neck, and watches as his body disappears. Cynthia tells her she's proud, suggesting now she help her mother confront her own fears next, but Jordan refuses with a laugh. They embrace as the scene fades and the movie ends.